Welcome to Illuminati Silver. We tell you the truth about silver. We've been asked by a number of subscribers to comment briefly on Trump's proposed tariffs. And we thought, actually, having listened to Trump in recent months, that the image that he's conveying as to who pays the tariffs is not exactly accurate. So we thought we would put the record straight and produce this video. It's a similar video to the one that we've produced on our sister channel, Finances Do Matter, which hopefully you will have subscribed to, and if not, there is a link in the description box below. So, what are the advantages and disadvantages of tariffs, and who pays the price? Anyone who starts out in banking or economics very quickly moves on to international trade. And the subject of tariffs come up very, very early on and actually formulate one's opinion relatively quickly as to whether they are good or bad for an economy. But what is not true, and this is where Donald Trump is wrong, is when he says China pays all this money to the United States because of the tariffs that he imposes. That is not true. I will show you in a moment why that is the case. It is you, the buyer, the purchaser, the importer of those goods, who physically pay the tariffs. However, having said that, there are a number of advantages in imposing tariffs as well as disadvantages which Trump fails to communicate, which if he did, and which also explains why the Biden administration have not got rid of all the tariffs that Trump imposed, if he did that, then no one could fact check him as telling a lie. Whereas at the moment his narrative is too short, too brief, and somewhat inaccurate. I want to show you a Reuters article that actually says that despite this factual inaccuracy, Trump actually polls higher than Harris on the economy and in terms of tariffs. That said, I'll prove to you, providing of course you believe ChatGPT, though I will say to you the information that I'm going to show you on ChatGPT is contained in numerous millions of economic textbooks. So let's have a look at the Reuters article, then we'll move over quickly to ChatGPT, and then I will actually give you my conclusion, which I've probably already given you at the start of this podcast. Reuters, September 15th. Voters narrowly support Trump's tariff pitch. Reuters Ipsos poll finds. Donald Trump's campaign vow to increase tariffs on imported goods, particularly from China, has the support of a narrow majority of US voters, illustrating his economic advantage over rival Vice President Kamala Harris. A new Reuters Ipsos poll shows. The Republican former president and his Democratic opponent have both vowed to pursue tax cuts if they win the November the 5th election. But voters also credit Trump with being more likely to lower the $35 trillion national debt, even though independent economic forecasters say his proposals would have the opposite effect. Some 56% of registered voters in the September 11th-12th poll said they were more likely to support a candidate backing a new 10% tariff or tax on all imports, as well as a 60% tariff on imports from China. By comparison, 41% said they were less likely to support a candidate attached to that proposal. The poll showed Harris with an overall 5 percentage point lead over Trump nationally, though the US presidential race will largely be decided in about 7 battleground states where the race is tighter. So let's now type into ChatGPT, who pays for tariffs and what are the advantages and disadvantages. And then we'll click on that. Now, this is really important. You don't have to take my word for it. This is ChatGPT. Okay, tariffs are taxes imposed by a government on imported goods. Typically, the importer, the businesses or companies that bring foreign goods into a country, is responsible for paying the tariff. That's not the exporter. That's the importer, the person bringing it in. However, the cost of tariffs can be passed down to consumers, which are you and I, through higher prices on goods. In some cases, foreign exporters might absorb some of the tariffs to keep their prices competitive. So when Trump says exporters, in other words, China, pays the tariffs, no, they do not. They might absorb some of the tariff into their pricing, so they're making less profit. But it's the buyer who is paying. Now, having said that, there are advantages in having tariffs, which is why the Biden administration hasn't got rid of all of Trump's tariffs. You've got the protection of domestic industries. Tariffs shield local businesses from foreign competition by making imported goods more expensive, encouraging consumers to buy domestic products. Revenue for the government. Tariffs provide a source of income for governments, which can be used for public services or to reduce deficits, because the importer who's paying the tariffs are paying those tariffs to the government. Job protection. By making foreign products less attractive, tariffs can help maintain or create jobs in local industries that might otherwise be undercut by cheaper imports. And it encourages local manufacturing. Tariffs can incentivize local production, reducing reliance on imports and boosting the domestic economy. Now, the disadvantages? Higher prices for consumers. Since the cost of tariffs are often passed down to consumers, they end up paying more for imported goods, which can reduce their purchasing power. Trade wars. Tariffs can lead to retaliation from other countries, sparking trade wars that can harm businesses reliant on global supply chains and slow economic growth. Limited choices. Consumers may have fewer options as tariffs make foreign goods more expensive or unavailable. Hurt exporters. Countries that impose tariffs may face retaliation, where other nations put tariffs on their exports, making it harder for local businesses to sell abroad. And global economic instability. Widespread use of tariffs can disrupt global trade relationships and hinder economic cooperation. Tariffs are paid by the importer, which are often then passed on to you, the consumer, me, the consumer. That said, sometimes the countries that have had these tariffs imposed absorb some of that cost. And sometimes, more often, the importers pass that cost on to us, the consumer, which in effect increases inflation, because inflation is the rise in the price of goods and services. But all that said, there are some advantages, especially long term. So one could argue that the imposition of modest tariffs, sensible tariffs, targeted tariffs could be short-term pain for long-term gain. Let me know what you think. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, but whether you like it or don't, please at least subscribe and press the bell sign. And we'll talk about other interesting subjects that our politicians remonstrate, argue and debate about, which are not always true.